Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards.
Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Now is the time to live the life of your dreams and do the work you feel most called to do in the world.
Welcome to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
My friend, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. Here, episode 698. And in today's episode, I'm going to feature a podcast interview. The recording of an interview where I was the guest on a podcast called Dad of Ages with my friend and client, Daniel Whitworth. I'll share that with you in just a moment. It's going to be incredibly powerful because in this conversation, he brought up a topic that I don't talk a lot about in public content, and that is my own experience as a father to my children. I mean, Stephanie and I talked about it for a decade in Family from the Heart and stuff like that, but not at the level of what was pulled out of this conversation. And also my experience with my two dads. And that'll become evident what that means in this conversation that I'm about ready to share with you. But before I do that, I want to share with you an email that I just got from Sean. He recently purchased the Free the Dream online course, which you can find over at freethedreamcourse.com or my website at cliffravenscraft.com. Anyway, he had made this purchase and he had some questions about his access, how long he would be able to access it, and all this other stuff. I answered his questions and I said, hey, I have two questions for you. Number one, how did you discover me? And number two, what made you decide to purchase this course? And here's what he wrote back. He said, and by the way, I do have permission from Sean to share this with you. He said, I first heard about your work late last year when I discovered Grant Baldwin's How'd You Get Into That podcast. The episode in question was episode 61, and it was produced in 2014. He says, I'm what you would call a late adopter. So anyway, here I was almost a decade ago, a guest on this podcast, and then late last year, he discovered that interview. So he's been following me ever since. He says, as far as why did I purchase Free the Dream online course, he says, if I may be frank, I'm tired of the 9-to-5 rat race. I'm a fiction writer, and I have yet to establish my career. Despite my best efforts, I also want to create a course on fiction writing to share my God-given gift. Unfortunately, I grew up with a lot of negative belief systems and self-talk, which have carried over into my adult life. Of course, this is something that your course addresses, as well as the fact that you have been involved with so many different industries and have made them all work for you. It's almost as if you have the Midas touch. Whereas I've co-owned a business, hosted a podcast, and did everything I could to promote my author brand, only to fail in all of these endeavors. The reality is you have the insight, the mindset, the belief systems, and everything else to help you succeed. That's what I want. I thought it would be a good course for my wife because I believe she has a lot of unrealized goals. I want to help her discover them. I suspect that I too have goals that I haven't even thought of yet. And then he said, I know that it's a lengthy reply, but thank you for asking. And of course, I wrote back and I want to share with you. I said, wow, thank you for sharing all of this. I guess maybe in some ways I can understand how you would perceive that I have the Midas touch, but I didn't always. I'm sure you figured that out as soon as you finished watching the first session in the course. And by the way, I happen to know that he's only watched the first session so far. So I continued on in my email. Through this course, you're going to learn so many valuable tools and techniques that helped me develop the mindset, the beliefs, and also the supporting emotional states that have allowed me to consistently move towards the realization of my dreams, regardless of how many things fail along the way. Also, the most important part is that not everything has to succeed for me to quote unquote feel fulfilled or at peace. Once I discovered this, there is so much less stress and pressure on quote unquote making things happen. Once I stopped forcing my way, I found that things began to flow easily as I stopped sweating the small stuff and realized that it's all small stuff. I hope you and your wife enjoy the course. And he gave me permission to share this wording with you, and I'm thrilled that I did that. And not only is that an adequate way to give you an idea, do you resonate with what Sean has shared? And if so, you might also want to check out this Free the Dream course over at freethedreamcourse.com. But more importantly, if you're hearing this in April 2020, right as I'm releasing this, in 2 weeks from today, as I'm recording it, you can join me for the very first ever workshop version live event of the Free the Dream message. Now, we've done this as Free the Dream Conference for 2 years, in 2018 and 2019. Big, huge, massive production, over $65,000 each year spent in making that thing happen the way that it happened. But now we're putting it together now that we're past the pandemic. Still, we know that conferences have just a third or even a quarter of the attendances they had prior to the pandemic. So we're not ready to bring the conference back yet, but we're doing these small, intimate gatherings, workshop experiences for this Free the Dream message. And I would encourage you, go ahead, sign up for the workshop. And by the way, I realize you might be listening to this after April 13th and 14th, 2023. Still, go to freethedreamworkshop.com. There'll be many more of these workshops in the future. But if you hear my voice, if you're hearing my voice right now, and you purchase a ticket to the Free the Dream workshop, you send me an email, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com, and ask me, say, hey, Cliff, I listened to episode 698 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. I've signed up for the workshop. I'd like free access to the Free the Dream online course, and I will grant that access for you. All right. Anyway, wanted to share all of that, and now here is this incredibly powerful conversation that I had with Daniel Whitworth in his Dad of Ages podcast, and I felt halfway through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to share this message with the world, and here it is right now.
All right, here we are again with another awesome Dad of Ages interview with fellow Dad of Ages, Cliff Ravenscraft. So Cliff is actually a new friend of mine, relatively new, but also I would call him a coach of mine, a mentor, someone I'm learning a lot from. And he, if you don't know who he is, he's formerly the podcast answer man. I guess he still is technically, but he's also the mindset answer man. And he has a lot of words of wisdom, but he's also a dad, just like me and just like many of you. And so that's why I wanted him on the show. And so that's everyone. Welcome, Cliff. Cliff, how are you doing today, buddy?
Daniel, I have never been better, and it gets better every single millisecond of the day. And I'm honored to be here. That is awesome.
And I knew you would say that. I love that Cliff always says that whenever I ask him how he's doing. And you know what? He means it. He means it. So
I do mean it.
Anyway, Cliff. Yeah. So Cliff, you're on here today to talk about dad stuff. So tell me about your family.
Sure. Well, I'll start off with the most important part of my family, and that is my beautiful wife, who has been my partner in this experience and this journey for more than 26 years now that we've been married.
Awesome.
And we have 3, let's say, responsible young adults. It was sometime after Megan was born that we made a decision that we were not going to raise kids. We were not, the whole idea of raising kids is not what we are about. Instead, we were going to raise responsible young adults who contribute to society in a positive way. The world has enough adult kids out there. So we want responsible young adults, And we have 3 of them, by the way. So our oldest, her name is Megan. I think she just turned 24. Anyway, she is getting married in January.
Awesome.
So we have our first wedding that we are planning. Recently graduated college just over a year ago. She's now in her dream job that she currently has, on the path towards what I think is going to be some pretty exciting things as a wedding planner at some point in the future. And I see the potential for full-time self-employment, but only if that's what she truly desires.
Yeah.
So that's
very cool.
Our oldest. Our middle child is our son. He is 22 years old. Out of high school, he did not want to go to college right away. Went and got a job at DHL, worked there for, I think, a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, and then decided, you know what, maybe I miss school, I miss learning. Decided to go to college, and he went for 1 semester. And then after 1 semester, he's like, "There's nothing here for me. This is crazy." He's like, "I'd rather just go out and figure out something else in this world than sit here for this," because he thought he was going to be a teacher, and he's like, okay, this is clearly not the path for me. And then he's like, I think I'm going to study to be a film student. And he's like, that's clear. And he's like, okay, I'm just wasting your guys' money, and I get it. Okay. He's getting ready to venture out into his own. He'll be moving out probably by the end of this year. And then our youngest daughter is McKenna, and she is 17 years old. She is a senior in high school, although for the last 2 years she has not attended high school at all. She's attended Northern Kentucky University because she's a straight A student, and she's done what's called dual enrollment. She spends all of her time at the university for her classes. She'll graduate with, get this, a 4.8 GPA, which 4.0 is the highest.
4.8.
Yeah, she will graduate with a 4.8 GPA. She's about 60 days from graduation. And this fall, I should say, she'll go to Western Kentucky University, same school that our other 2 had gone to. And when she enters her first year at Western Kentucky University after graduating high school, she'll be in the middle of her junior year of college.
Awesome.
So those are my 3 responsible young adults.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you're very proud of them, and that's great. And not too long from being what they call an empty nester, I suppose, for young adults living in your own home, right?
Yeah, but we still have this little pup. His name is Leo, and so there's still is like I'm thinking. It's like, okay, these guys are getting out of the house. It's just gonna be Stephanie and I. It's like the places we could travel. Let's go to visit New Zealand. Let's go to Scotland. Let's go to Greece. I'd like to visit Thailand and Japan.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go to all these amazing places. And well, we've got a little pup. He's about 2 or 3 years old now, and so Stephanie's probably going to be tethered here for quite some time. For that.
Still got a mouth to feed, right?
We still have a mouth to feed. In some ways, it seems like this little guy is more expensive than our other 3.
Pets can be that way, for sure. Fortunately for us, we do not currently have a pet. We have 6 kids, but no pets. And I'm like, maybe when they're all grown up, we'll have a pet again. I don't know. We'll see. But okay, Cliff, cool. Thank you for sharing that with me. Sounds like awesome. Again, I don't want to call them kids because you don't call them. I'll call my kids because that's what I know.
They're my kids. They're my children. It's not that I don't go out of my way to. They are my kids. They are my children. The key emphasis is that we didn't raise kids.
I actually really appreciate that. I know that some of the books I've read talk about that. And you're right. There is like an epidemic of like grown up kids. They stay kids. And a lot of that is because of the way the parents think about them. They think about them as kids, children, all the way into adulthood. Yeah.
So that's
a good point.
I know we're going to go out of, but since we're on this topic, what does that mean?
Yeah, go ahead.
To not raise kids for us, and what did that look like? Well, number one, it meant if our kids ask us a question, we're going to tell them the truth. How do babies get born? Well, we didn't use Heine and all the.
Yeah.
We use anatomically correct language.
Yeah, we do the same thing. Nicole's a nurse. Like we use the right words. I guess.
It's like this is what's going on. This is what happens. And so here we have toddlers who are 4 and 6 years old talking about the sexual process of reproduction with their preschool classmates, and we're getting calls, and it's like, what? This is real stuff. I mean, I can't help it. Your kids don't know how this stuff works. The other thing is we made a commitment to not lie. So that means that we never told them about a guy who wears a red suit that comes once a year at the end of the year, comes down the chimney. It's like, no, that's not how this works. Your mom and I, we once a year celebrate this season, and we are the ones who have purchased those gifts for you and stuff like that. But here's why you might want to not break the illusion for your friends. And so the other
we
thing,
do the same thing.
The other thing that we did is we never talked to our kids. It's like, okay, well, let's not do that. Okay, so here's what you need to know. And we never spoke like that, because I would never speak that way to another adult. And so we've spoken to our children from the time they were toddlers and could speak. We spoke to them as we would any of our adult friends. I mean, we spoke with reason that they could understand their language, but still never in a tone that made them feel like they were inferior or less than. And, we're the people with all of the answers, and you're the one that just needs to be the sponge. It's like the other thing that is very interesting is that we allowed our children to challenge the things that we were teaching them, to challenge the rules, to challenge everything. That has been so incredibly powerful and rewarding to see that it's like, wait a second, because I said so is not an appropriate response for me, Cliff Ravenscraft, to give to my children. It was a cop-out. It's like, no, why did I tell you so? I did say, because I told you so. Well, why did you tell me so? And I'm saying that's a really great question. Fair question. Let me get back to you on that, because I don't even know if I have an answer right now. And these are this is the dialogue that I would have with a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 13-year-old.
Yeah. Now, before we get into more dad stuff, I do want to make sure you get a chance to plug your own business. So tell us about what kind of work you do and anything you'd like to say about that.
The work that I do, I help people experience radical shifts in the way that they perceive and experience life. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a guy who just applied for one-on-one coaching with me. And he says, Cliff, I absolutely need your help. About 3 years ago, I grew my business to $1.2 million in revenue. Everything was going great. I thought I had achieved all the pinnacles of success. Everything that the world has taught me that should lead to a fulfilling life, I had it all. And then things started to slide a little bit financially, and now I'm only making $600,000 a year, and I'm depressed. I am overwhelmed with stress. I have no peace. I can't sleep at night. And by the way, his situation is such that he could get by. I mean, it's like 600,000 is nothing to sneeze at. This would be a dream come true for a lot of people. And the reality is it doesn't matter. I actually have clients. I have one client who has a net worth in millions. And this person, when they first started working with me about 13 years ago, had the same exact situation. Oh, I'm overwhelmed with stress. I have no peace. There's really no fulfillment in what I'm doing. And this person never has to work another day in their life if they don't want to. There is nothing material that I couldn't have, but there's an aching in my soul, and I don't know what it is. And today this person is experiencing joy. And if this person lost everything and owned nothing and was in debt to the federal government for $750 million, this person would still have as much peace, joy, love, and abundance. And in fact, that's another, I have some clients for various different reasons. Some of them failed business partnerships where the partner embezzled the money out of the thing, an employee embezzled money, or hired somebody, didn't oversee things. I have 3 different clients who either owe the IRS $100,000 all the way up to $7.5 million.
Wow.
And they are all filled with joy. And, well, today have joy, peace, fulfillment. They have plenty of time with their spouses. They're fully present when they're with their kids. They don't sweat the small stuff, and they've come to understand finally that it's all small stuff. That's what I do professionally.
That's a really good description of it. Awesome. Thank you, Cliff. And I know I'm learning from you, and I've joined your coaching as well, and I'm getting to that point. So I certainly appreciate what you do. And well, let's get back to dad stuff. So the first question I like to ask when talking about dad stuff, we've already covered some of it, but we'll cover it again, is like, I like to ask about your own father, because I know for me personally, I didn't grow up with a dad, and that has shaped me as a dad. And it's our own father has I think, a profound impact on how we are as men and as fathers in general. And so I think it's a pertinent question. So tell us about your relationship with your father.
So which one?
That's part of the answer, isn't it? It's like, so what's
so okay.
You're let's put it this way: the guy who is your earthly father. Let's put it that way.
Well, no, I mean, which one of those? I have two.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So here's what I want to talk about. I have I'm going to say biological dad, but when I say biological dad, I don't want to refer that I didn't have a meaningful relationship with him. He was my dad, he was my father, and I loved him. He loved me. So in all ways, he is my father. He is my dad, or was, and is. And then we could get into that even if you want to, or stay away from it. It's perfectly fine with me. So there's my biological dad. The only reason I'm going to call him my biological dad is because my dad today, he was my stepdad from the time I was either 5 or 6 years old. He became my stepdad. As a content creator, I'm sitting there just like, okay, so I'm telling you a story about an experience I just had with my dad, and then I'm talking about a different story about it, and it's like your dad sounds like he's got multiple personalities. No, it's just two different dads, because I called them both dad. So my biological dad passed away in 2015. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years after that, my stepdad said, hey, would you be interested in if I were to offer to adopt you? My stepdad became my official adopted. So I'm an adopted
dad, yeah.
I'm an adopted child, and I became an adopted child in my 40s, which is funny. That's and awesome. Crazy. I said, yes, I would love that. I would be honored. The only thing is would it be weird for you if I told you I want to keep my last name? I don't want to change. I mean, I've got a brand recognition with millions of people around the world as Cliff Ravenscraft, and also I love my dad, and I want to stay true to that authentically. I just don't want to change my name. And he says, no worries. Yeah. So I have two. Where to go with this one? I'll start with my biological dad, since I started out with him. One of the things to know about him is that he was a drug addict and an alcoholic from the day I was born all the way up until when he died in May of 2015. During the first 5 years of my life, to say that I was introduced to some pretty traumatic experiences, it's an understatement. One of my earliest memories as a child is I'm a toddler. I have no idea how old I was. What happened was, I recall as a little toddler, my dad and all of his male friends hanging out on whatever drugs they're on. I don't know. All I know is they were acting funny, and I've been able to see it in memories. All I remember is looking down the steps, and there's a door that was open and it had a screen door, and I could see the sun. And it's like I wanted to go outside and play. It was a sunny day. And I began to walk towards it. My earliest memory is one of my dad's friends had a large, incredibly sharp knife. He held it to my neck, and he said, if you walk one step closer to that door, I'll slit your throat. So that is one of my earliest memories of my childhood. And then, so there was situations where my uncle and my dad were hanging out with a bunch of their friends, and he passed away from a drug overdose. There's a story of guns being held to people's heads. I mean, all sorts of fun, exciting things for a toddler to experience with his dad. Wow. Now, the crazy thing is that when my stepdad became my dad and my mom left and divorced my biological dad, it's like I literally jumped into a parallel universe.
No, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's like, I'm living in a different world. It's like, what is this world? I do not understand playgrounds. I do not understand what is camping and what is this? What is this? I mean, I just don't understand this. I live in this chaotic, and that, of course, that was my environment. It's like this. No,
you didn't know
this
any
is
different.
This is what life is supposed to be, and then and so I'm confused about what life is, what this world is. It was a difficult transition. Quite frankly, I was angry that he took me away from my dad and took my mom away from my dad. I'm like, what the heck is all this stuff about? So this is my childhood, and then over time, my mom obviously didn't want me to be influenced by my dad, but at the same time, she's like, listen, it's going to be, as I was getting older, 7 or 8 or 9, I wanted to be with my dad. I didn't know why it was wrong. It's like, listen, this is no big deal. And so there were times that I would, my mom's like, listen, I'm not going to force you to not have a relationship with your dad, but let me just tell you, it's not safe for you. It's not this. But there were times when my dad was more able to have experiences with me and stuff like that. And there were times when, all throughout my life where, it's like, no, you're not going with him this weekend or anytime ever again. That kind of deal. So I had this on again, off again relationship with my biological dad. And when I became a young adult, when I was 17 years old, I was invited to go on a cruise with him. And it was the first time it's like, okay, listen, my mom's like, listen, at this point, you're almost an adult. You're going to make your own decisions. And I'm not going to try to sway you one way or another about your dad. You're at a place now where you're responsible for whether or not you want to hang out with him. Well, I went on this week-long cruise with him, and it was the worst experience. I had never been so embarrassed to be in the presence of another human being and the way that he treated people. And all night long, all there was just the sound of puking in a bathroom. It was just, and I resolved from that moment, I hate this man. I want nothing to do with him. I can't wait to get off this ship. And that began my adult relationship with my father. Interestingly enough, though, this is just a confession of who I was at the time. The one thing is that my dad was my dad, and I knew that he desired to do things for me. And quite frankly, by the way, today, this guy you're talking to right now, I experience zero guilt. I experience zero shame. I refuse to go all the way down to those levels of consciousness. Guilt and shame is just not within my ability to experience today. But all the way up until his death, I experienced tons of guilt and shame. And the reason why is because from the time I was 18 until pretty much until we had children, until Megan was born, I only ever wanted anything to do with my dad because there was the chance that he might help me get something that I want, whether that is if he wants to give me money or if, it's like, I'll never forget this time I had a cell phone carrier. And, this is in the early days of cell phones, and they had this one bill and stuff like that. And there's like, Cliff, you owe us $1,000. And I'm like, listen, I'm 20 years old. I can't afford to pay you $1,000. This is ridiculous. This is not what it, and so my dad being who my dad is, I knew that he could call and there's no limits to what he will say to them. And sure enough, he knows how to get people on their phone and say, listen, you're going to do this or else this. So in essence, I kind of used my dad. And I only ever really did a lot. What I'm giving you is actually what I used to recall. None of what I'm telling you is actually accurate. I mean, the details are accurate, but my perception of my relationship with my dad is completely off. Anyway, in my mind, I hate my dad. There's never anything good about my relationship with my dad from the time I'm 17 on. The only way that I can... and it's only in looking back, and it's after his death. The only way that I'm able to maintain my ability to hate this man is by making sure that I repress all the memories of anything good that he had ever done and all the good attributes of who he was. So in my in my mind, I would only allow myself, because here's the thing, I'm a Christian, and at one point I'm a pastor for 10 years. So I'm an associate pastor in a church, and I hate my dad.
Yeah. That doesn't really mix well.
Exactly. So, and then when my kids were born, it got to the place where it's like, okay, he can't be the things he does and says around my kids. No. So we got to the place where what's that? When was Megan born? She was born in 1999. So from 1999 to 2015, the only times I ever saw my dad was during Thanksgiving and Christmas. Ironically, I experienced significant depression from Thanksgiving through Christmas every single year. May have been correlated.
Possibly.
And the only reason why is because of the amount of guilt and shame I had about how I felt about my dad, being his only son and wanting nothing to do with him. And the fact that, it took me until the first week in January where I could forget that he exists. I could repress the fact that he exists, except for occasionally he would call and leave a message, and he would leave like 18 voice messages in one day. Hey, I just wanted to check you in. It's 2:00. I just wanted to see how you're doing. Hey, it's 3:15. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. I love you. Just call me sometime. And it would trigger another bout of depression. And it was, So that's my relationship with my biological dad. He experienced some significant medical issues with heart. He had surgery. He got to the place where he couldn't walk anymore. Here we are in our business, financially succeeding beyond measure. And we have this beautiful dream home that we built. It's got a guest room in the house with the whole bath attached to it, all this stuff. And the idea of my dad taking in my biological dad, that's a non-starter. It's like, no. Number one, he smokes. Number two, I don't like the guy. Number three, he's not living in this house with my kids. The amount of guilt and shame I felt about that, and the fact that it's my second cousin who takes in my dad and cares for him for the remaining years of his life. Wow. You talking about some heavy stuff. That was way heavy on me. It was May of 2015. I go and visit him at this rehab center. He had just gotten out of some surgery, had some things. He was in the behavioral unit for his craziness and all this other stuff. But now he's in this rehab place, and I go to visit him right before I'm on my way down to Nashville to do a triathlon. That day, he was being what he's always done. He was being really rude and nasty to everyone. He was being rude and nasty to me. And he was saying, and it's like, hey, this is my son. And and he was saying really inappropriate things. And I listen, I said, Dad, if you're going to say these things, I don't want to be around you. I can't, number one, I don't want you to treat me this way. And I don't like how you're treating these people. I don't want to be around you when you're treating people this way. He goes, well, why don't you just leave then? And and he died that night. So that was my last final words. So to say that when he died, that I experienced a deep new low that I didn't think that I could experience, it was pretty profound. It took me a while just to get through all of that.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of leave that there for just a moment.
Okay.
And I'll tell you about my stepdad. So my stepdad, I told you, he's an incredible man, and he's loved me from the time that he first met my mom. He's done nothing but provide the greatest that life has to offer. But I didn't know. It was a hard adjustment. I called him Jack for the first, I don't know how long. It's like, listen, no, I am not going to call you Dad. That is not happening. You're Jack, and all this stuff. But he dealt with it. He put up with it. And eventually, I don't know where, but somehow, somewhere, some way, I eventually began to see him as my dad. He was a workaholic, but he's a provider. And he's like, listen, and he was also very disciplinarian, but not disciplinarian in a overly harsh way. I mean, he grew up with his dad was a major in the Marines. So he grew up with some discipline, and so I'm sure I had it nothing like he did. But there was some spanking and some stuff like that involved every now and then, but not it was not overly aggressive, and quite frankly, it worked well on me, and stuff. But the thing is, though, is that he had very high standards of ethics. It's like, listen, I asked you to do this, you're going to do this, and when you say you're going to do something, you don't do it half, but you do it the right way, and go back and redo it. And so he had, and we didn't do when we went on vacations, we went on vacation, but we didn't go on vacation a lot because he worked all the time. He's providing. We struggled a lot financially for the first probably 10 years that he was married to my mom. And then eventually one day he took over the family business. His dad started an insurance agency in 1937. He took it over. And when he took it over, all of a sudden financially everything changed. As far as I'm concerned, it's like, wow, Daddy Warbucks is now my dad.
Oh. Okay.
But at this time, I'm already, I don't know how old I am at the time, maybe 12, 13, 14 years old. I've got a little sister, and she's 7 years younger than me. The only thing I know is that I'm still on the edge of, I'd love to have this mini bike. I'd love to have this. And he's like, no. Whereas my sister, who wants things that are less expensive, gets everything she wants. And I'm like, so I'm still on the verge of that. And then let's move into when I'm a teenager. I'm 16 years old. My mom and dad buy me a car, and it's like a $2,000 jalopy, right? But they buy me a car. I didn't have to pay for it myself. Then 7 years later, just to give you an idea how things were shifting financially for them, 7 years later, my sister turns 17, and her first car is a brand new, right off the showroom floor, Mustang convertible.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Mustang convertible.
Yep.
All right. So, and then, by the way, I have a little brother who is 8 years younger than my sister. So do the math on that. This was 15 years younger than me.
Quite a spread. Yeah.
This kid, my little brother, dude, is like, he doesn't ask. He's like, listen, you're getting me this. I want this. I want this. I want this, and I want it. And this is the date I need it by. And everything.
Wow.
So, but in a way, I'm so incredibly thankful. I am so incredibly thankful for all of the things that my mom and my stepdad, and now my dad, did not provide for me, did not give to me, that all the things that I had to work for. There's so much of that discipline that I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the work ethic. There's so many aspects of that I did not like back then, and I resented before. As far as I'm concerned, my stepdad, my dad, he has been an incredible father. Just nothing whatsoever in my mind could I give you as any negative aspect that I would want to share with you about my dad. And I don't even consider him being a workaholic to be a negative aspect. It's just a part of his system of life and his system of belief. And that's just who he is. And in spite of that, he provided me a great life and all this other stuff. So, and by the way, today, me and my dad, we have the most amazing. So, by the way, I went and started working for him and my mom in the family business in 1996, worked there for 12 years. I was next in line to take over the insurance agency. And if I wouldn't have left, I would own the agency now because he retired just about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'd be making about $1.5 to $2 million a year. I'd be miserable in the most soul-sucking career of my life, but I'd be financially successful.
Money does not buy happiness. That's
no,
right.
It does not. So
it helps a little.
So anyway, so that's my relationship with my dad. And when I went to leave the insurance agency to pursue my own full-time self-employment career in 2008, when I went to give him my notice, I thought for sure this is going to be the one time my dad's going to like, listen, there's no way. Do you know what's happening in the financial world here in late 2007? Do you not see do you not know what a gift you have here? This is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to talk me out of leaving. He said to me instead, this is what my now dad said. This is what he said to me, because, man, I've been waiting for months for you to come in and tell me that you're ready to leave. He said,
wow.
He goes, I am so excited for you. I just want to say, man, the courage it takes for you to make this decision and come and tell me about this. I'm so proud of you. He says, first and foremost, I just want to let you know, you could always come back here. If it doesn't work out, you always have a place here. But I just want to let you know, you'll never come back, because I know what your passion is for what you want to do. This is your gifting. This is your talent. And it may not be easy, and you may not have a easy way of seeing how this is going to work out, but you know how much money you could make here owning this agency. And I will tell you right now, you'll never be able to make as much money here as you will going and pursuing what you feel most called to do in this world.
Yeah,
that's what my dad said to me. And now
that's a great dad statement. Wow.
He's 72 years old, and we just went to a Leo Sayer concert this past week, and it was awesome. So we have, and by the way, he's retired for a couple of years now, and he still works 2 or 3 days a week at the insurance agency.
Yeah. Can't stop.
You can't stop, which is great. As a matter of fact, it's part of that is my actual coaching. I actually coached him on that. I said, listen, I said, Dad, I've done too much study of careers and retirement and what happens when people retire. I said, here are the signs to look out for. And he says, Cliff, gosh, after 9 months of being retired, I started to see the signs, and I can understand why people actually pass away within a few years of retirement. And he goes, I'm going back. I'm going to work a couple of days a week. And I said, that's awesome, Dad. But my suggestion for him, I said, you've got to find something. You can't. This has been so much a part of who you are. You have to do something. So But most of his life, he was taught that you're going to work until your retirement age, you're going to sell, and you're going to enjoy life, and you're going to do all this stuff. Right. And I'm like, Dad, they lied to you.
Yeah.
I said, I've been coaching people for the last 10 years. I have people who are 78 years old and 82 years old, and they're hiring me to help them figure out what they want to do next in life or work.
Yeah.
Not because they need it financially.
Right. No, that's beautiful. No, thank you for sharing all that about your dads. For sure, you kind of seen the two sides in a lot of ways of like having not a great dad experience. Well, I put it not a great dad experience.
So the perception,
a great dad experience.
So actually, what I had is the perception of a not great dad experience and the perception of a great dad experience. By the way, only one of them I consider to be true, and that is the fact that my dad, who is 72 years old, who became my stepdad and now my adopted dad, that perception I consider to be true. My perception of everything I told you about my relationship with my biological dad is a falsehood. It is a complete and utter lie, and it was a lie that my subconscious mind created so that I could proceed with my hatred of my father and my selfishness and everything else.
Right.
Well, and what I've
since learned. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So after my dad died, and within the last 5 years, I've experienced some pretty miraculous things. And one of them happened one night when I was going to laying in bed, wanting to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, I am literally no longer in my body. I am not in my bed. I'm not in my body. I am traveling through space and time, having what I would call today a metaphysical experience. Now, this one is an experience where all of a sudden I am literally flashing to all these different scenes within my childhood. And every single scene has one thing in common: me and my dad. And this went on. If you can imagine, it's like it's like a flash, and I'm in that memory. It's like I'm there. I'm the little kid, little version of me with my dad. And all of a sudden I'm there, and it's like maybe 5 to 7 or 8 minutes worth of that scene is being played in front of me, but it's not being played in front of me. I'm experiencing it.
Wow.
So imagine 8 minutes of that experience within 10 seconds. So I'm literally experiencing minutes within seconds. And then it flashes and another one. And then it flashes and another one. This went on for 2 to 3 hours.
Wow.
And every amazing experience I ever had with my biological dad, every incredibly profound, amazing thing he ever did for me, all the sacrifices that he made, all of them were unleashed, unlocked, and were allowed to flood back into my being.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then I will just share with you, in January of 2021, on my birthday, January 20th, I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, that's a little too early. I think I'll wait till at least 3:30 in the morning. And I had a habit of getting up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning at the time. 1 o'clock was a little too soon for me. So I went back to sleep, but I didn't go back to sleep. However, I did have another one of these metaphysical out-of-body experiences. I'm not in my body. I'm not in my bed. Instead, I'm someplace else, and my dad comes, and he's wearing like this white robe, and his face is shining like gold. He's got his reddish hair, and it's got a glow like a halo around it. And the crazy thing is he has those crazy sunglasses that he was wearing on the cruise the entire week where we were on this cruise. So he's got these crazy sunglasses, and he comes to me. And here's the interesting thing: in this dream, my dad and I spent 3.5 days together. He came to wish me a happy birthday. He came to talk to me. And here's the thing: for 3.5 days, we never spoke audibly to one another. There was no need. It's just whatever I thought he heard, whatever he thought I heard. And and I'm like, the beginning was, I'm so sorry, Dad, and he cut me off, and he's like, no, just like in the parable of the prodigal son, he went to go apologize, and he's like, no need. It's like, we're celebrating. And then he says, I said, Dad, I get it. No, I understand. I totally appreciate if I were given the fact that your parents died when you were a teen, you had these experiences, you had this situation where you got in trouble with the law, you were put into the military, introduced. I can see exactly how I could have lived the exact lifestyle that you did. I have begun to see just how much you gave to me. You always did and we embraced, and we spent 3.5 days together in this dream. It was real. I'm telling you, Daniel, it was more real than this conversation than you and I are having right now. It was more real than that. And then I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. So for 2.5 hours, I spent 3.5 days with my dad. And ever since then, me and my dad, my biological dad, I have the most incredible relationship with that man.
That is amazing.
I had a wonderful childhood with him. From the time I was a toddler all the way up until 2015, he was an incredibly loving father who did everything within his power to make sure that I had the life that I was able to experience, including encouraging my mom to marry my dad.
Wow. It is amazing how, I think you bring up something there that I've often thought about, is that how we as the offspring of our parents can't really know. I mean, without what you've been able to achieve, let's put it that way, that without that, we can't really know what life was like for our parents before we were there, even like when we were there. Because when we're kids, we're not paying attention to their lives, right? You know, we're not really thinking about their motives, their challenges, any of those things. You know, and I think about that now as I am a parent of young children. Like, they don't know the stuff I'm going through right now. They don't know the mindset work that I'm doing, or the internal struggles and all that. The day that I kind of get mad at them for the same thing that yesterday I wasn't mad at for, you know, they can't perceive all that now. But it would be nice, kind of like what you've experienced, if that someday they're able to actually be able to experience all that and see the whys behind the experience that they perceived as they were growing up. So that's powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful, Cliff. And thank you for sharing all that.
So like I said, that happened in January 2021, and I've been studying countless hours every day since to figure out what in the heck these metaphysical experiences are, and learning and studying from ancient traditions about all of this stuff. And this is a key component and a core of the work that I do as a mindset coach today. That's how I'm able to help people break free from their traumas of the past and their perceptions of what life is, and all of this other stuff. And the great news is I've been able to do it within the framework of people's existing beliefs about God. And the great news is that I'm able to do it with people who are hardcore atheists or people from other religious traditions or anything. It's like, listen, I don't need you to change your beliefs and perceptions of God. I have studied immensely all of the different paths. I study Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. I haven't studied Muslim nearly as much as I would like, but I haven't had any paid clients there yet. I now have two Orthodox Jews, so I'm actually needing to study a lot more about specifically what an Orthodox Jew believes and what that religious life is like. But this is what I do. Is like, listen, I need to understand your language, because I believe everyone was created by the Creator, and we all have an experience of a union and connection with that Creator. And our traditions that we grew up in, each tradition has different language and a different way to explain what that is. And so this is what I do. That's what I love.
No, Cliff, I definitely appreciate that. And I very much look forward to our future sessions where you're helping me with these things. So let's talk about a little bit more dad stuff. If we got a little bit of time left, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Let's do something light. I don't know if you do light actually, but we'll do something light. What would you say your favorite thing has been about being a dad?
Oh, my favorite thing, just seeing the evolution of an infant learn how to interact with the world, starting all the way to watching first steps take place. That is just the most incredible thing. I got to witness that 3 different times, to watch my children learn how to walk upright. Yeah. That is a miracle. One of my favorite things is to see children learn a language. That is mind-blowing. To see my children learn how to read and how to write and how to interact with others. That's been amazing. I love seeing how each of my 3 children have the same parents, but have 3 radically different, distinct personalities. It's just so incredible to see how each of them have become uniquely themselves within our family dynamic. Yeah, so those are, I mean, I could go on for the next hour, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, those are good things. And you know, that is, I appreciate that you share that, because it's easy to, it's kind of what you focus on. And I know for me, what I'm learning from you there is like, there's a lot of good in just watching them become them. You know, that's a very cool part of it. And I think for me, for the longest time, I've struggled with that. I wanted them to become me. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
there's a scripture that says, train the child in the way, or train the child in the way they should go, in the way that they should go. And I always interpreted that as like, well, I know the way they should go. I've learned all the hard lessons, and I'm going to teach them how to go the way that I've learned to go. And I know the way they should go. I've since learned, and I haven't studied the root words and stuff like this, but I've since heard from people that I respect that it's train the child in the way that they are bent. Have you heard this?
I have not. So but it makes more sense.
Train the child to go in the way that they are bent. So basically, train the child to find and navigate their path through this world, given the system of how the world works. But that child is unique. It is an individual soul and son or daughter of God, and train that child how to take their unique perception and perspective of life and to go and help them navigate their own way of being in the world with what you've learned.
Good. No, that and since being a dad, I definitely I can see that as being way much more God's intent than, train them in the way you think things should go.
Well, and you think about this: how does God parent us?
Yeah, we're all unique. We all have our own past.
He lets us do all sorts of stuff. Let's be honest. We do really stupid stuff throughout our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
He created the universe in such a way that there's this thing called you sow what you reap. In Hindu, they call it karma. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing. So it's not necessarily it's not necessarily that God is causing things to happen. He's just created a system of perfection in the creation that when you do things, there are consequences. But those aren't things that he is imposing on you. Learn how the universe works, and he allowed us to learn it, to bump up against the bumper rails of life.
Right.
And we can actually take the bumper rails off and go way outside the lines. And it's not him bringing consequences. It's just, these are the consequences of what happens. And you know what? How many times will I forgive you? Is it 7 times? No, 70 times 7, which is actually,
infinite.
If you get there, whatever that number is, times that by 70. Because there is an infinite number. I'm here to train you in the way that you desire to create yourself to be in this world.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so one of the things that I've found in parenting that fits into that, what I've had to learn and that I've had to unlearn as well, is that it's really about giving your kids an opportunity to learn just from natural consequences instead of, like you said, the imposed, all right, you get a spanking, you get this, that, or the other. It's like the more we can teach our kids, and it's especially easier with the older ones, is if you can help create an environment for them in which they have options and choices so that they run up against the consequences of their own choices, not against the apparent imposed fake things. And so that's very true. And that's what God does to us. Like you said, he sets up a system where there are consequences for our actions. And, if you jump off a really tall building, guess what? Gravity's going to work.
Yep.
But God making you do.
But he doesn't stop you from doing it.
That's right. The stove is hot because it's hot, not because he's like punishing you. No, I like that perspective for sure. So let me ask you another question. So, one of the things I like to talk about is what I call the game of dad. Just a little analogy I like to say, like in the game of dad, we do wins and losses, and wins and losses are primarily have to do with the building of the relationships with our kids. So that the long-term relationships with our kids, that we want them to still be friends with us and things when they're grown, and we don't want them to hate us, right?
Well, let me
in the long run.
Since you put in the right at the end there, I just want to say that I'm not automatically agreeing with that statement. I'm totally fine if any of my 3 kids want to hate me for the rest of their life and never want anything to do with me. If that's the way that they are bent and desire to go through this world, that is their choice. And I have no desire to contradict their free will of choice of their relationship with me. Okay,
that's fair. But I would also say that
I have a desire. I have a desire for them to love me.
Right.
But I am not attached to that desire being fulfilled.
Gotcha. But you're not going to do anything intentionally to damage the relationship.
No, absolutely not. Nothing intentionally.
Right.
But I may, in my ego personality, if I get into a lower state of consciousness, do something that could unintentionally cause that. And I would still refuse to feel guilt or shame as a result of it.
Okay.
I may come to my senses, realize what I've done was inappropriate or harmful or hurtful or any of that thing. I may apologize, and they may choose to not accept my apology.
Right.
And God will not be mocked. He created a perfect system of sowing and reaping, and I will reap whatever I sow, including in these relationships. Right. And you're right. I wouldn't do it intentionally, but I'm not, I, as Cliff Ravenscraft, this ego, which is distinctly different from who I truly am at my essence, which is a divine spiritual being having a human experience. But the ego of Cliff Ravenscraft very well could potentially do something, but I don't live in fear of that.
Right. And so speaking of that ego side, that's kind of where I'm getting at, is here on the lower energy levels where most of us spend our time, Cliff. I know in our conversations we talk about this. So the question is basically what, I know you probably wouldn't call them mistakes, but what?
I call them
maybe
mistakes. No, I call them mistakes.
Okay, as you've been a parent, as you've been a dad.
Growth experiences or investments in education, advancements in my understanding of the universe.
Right.
But yeah, I still use the language mistake.
What would you say in raising your young adults? Your young responsible adults would say some of the areas that you found challenging in your ego, maybe mistakes ways that you've not done it as well as maybe you could have. However you want to describe it.
Yeah, back in the day with Megan, our first child, she got the brunt of the unconscious version of Cliff Ravenscraft. I am who I am, and I am the programming, and I'm going to spew out everything that I brought in. Not everything, obviously. I wasn't a drug addict or an alcoholic, but what I will tell you is that I was a very angry person. Megan, when she was young, I did spank, and and I would say things very loudly so that she would know how angry and wrathful I am, and hopefully that would put the fear into her. And so that was a part of it. Wasn't consistent. I wasn't an abusive father. I certainly didn't need to incorporate it. It wasn't even much like compared to what I had as a child. And I don't disparage my parents for spanking me. Trust me, from that perspective, that worldview, it was an appropriate way to parent and discipline. For some people it still is today, and I'm okay. That was trust me, that was not the most of my emotional scars from childhood.
Right.
So, but the thing is so when I look back, do I wish to take it back? Absolutely not. If I could go back and erase all of that, no. That's a part of the experience of life. But when I don't know if it was probably just before or just after our son was born, somewhere along this path, I had a wake-up call. It's like, this is not how I want to parent. This is not, I can't just be doing what this is just not it. And so I just completely shifted. Number one, I stopped the yelling and the anger, not overnight, by the way. This is
right. You intended to and worked toward it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So what happened was there was this one instance. This was probably 2008 2008, 2009. I'm sitting down in my office, and my daughter Megan comes into my office, and I said, "Hey, don't bring a cup down here." And it was a cup. I don't know if it was lemonade or whatever. She brought it in anyway. I've told her, I said, "Hey, will you please take that upstairs?" She goes, "It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine." And so we're sitting there, and then she knocks it over and spills it onto my laptop. And at the time, financially, we are like really just barely getting by. I mean, at the time we were on food stamps. I mean, the first year of our business, we were on food stamps, and for the first half of 2009, we were on food stamps. I mean, but the business had paid for like this $1,500 MacBook laptop at the time. It's my main computer for my business, now destroyed with whatever liquid was in it. And if there's a mistake, And by the way, I don't have any guilt or shame associated with this today. I understand. I completely understand and appreciate how that version of me had that response. But wow, did I lay into her. And I want to tell you, from that moment on, my relationship with my daughter Megan changed forever. She, from that point forward, she ceased to be the daddy's little girl and we have the best relationship on this planet kind of thing. And unintentionally, unconsciously, we grew apart. You know, and I mean, she's obviously, I'm still in the house every day. I'm still doing this and blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden I have this very detached relationship. And this is at a time when she's starting to go through puberty and all this other stuff. And I'm feeling really awkward about the girly things that I don't know anything about and all this other stuff. And I will tell you that actually put an incredibly powerful strain on our relationship, father-daughter. I mean, really bad. I felt like the world's worst dad for probably, if I had to guess, for probably 9 years. And so many times my wife would say, you know, Megan thinks you hate her. And I'm like, I don't understand that. How could she think that? It doesn't. Well, it's how you speak to her. It's how you, and I'm like, but I'm not. No, it's how you're not speaking to her. And I can't get it right, you know. And right. And again, for me, everything shifted, and I would say it all started to shift in June of 2016 when I was first introduced to some Tony Robbins materials, Creating Lasting Change, a 10-day audio program. Yeah. And then Stephanie and I went to UPW, Unleash the Power Within, for the first time together as a couple. And from that point forward, that's when I was like way in deep on personal and professional development, understanding human psychology, understanding human behavior. And I'm like, okay, wow, I want a different relationship. And from then, now today, having the most incredible relationship with my daughter. But I'm incredibly thankful that she chose to accept that because quite frankly, there would have been enough trauma introduced into our relationship that if she chose to, she could want to never have anything to do with me as her father. Yeah. And I would understand and I would respect and I would appreciate it. And I would have, as ego personality Cliff Ravenscraft, would have quote unquote deserved it. But by the grace of God in her, she extended that grace to me and we have an incredibly powerful relationship today. And that's great. I have less of those kinds of stories with Matthew, and I can't think of any that I've had with our youngest. But I did have one with my son, and this was, again, still way before I started studying the Tony Robbins things. But there was a situation where he did something, and it cost us some financial harm, and I was very angry. First time I yelled in a long time as a parent, and I said things like, you know, you don't know what you did, and blah blah blah. You don't respect me, and I got really. It's like, ooh, and afterwards, and then I'm like, okay, this will never happen again until it happened again. The same exact thing. And then I went really off. And I said some things to him that, knowing what I know now about hypnosis, about the power of suggestion and how it turns into what's called autosuggestion and becomes a part of your identity, I said things to him that could potentially ruin his life for the entire rest of his time on this planet. Wow. And I didn't know it then. I only knew it. I've only learned about it since 2016. So from 2016 through today, 2023, I've learned all of this stuff that I've learned. I'm like, wow. Thankfully, I learned it at a time where I've been able to go back and I've been able to sit down and have conversations with him and undo the wiring of those statements that had been planted. I don't know, though, because I still know enough to know about how deep that can go. And those words that I spoke to him could still get triggered at some point in the future. And I just recognized that. And it's like, wow, that was a mistake. You know what? The thing is, though, is how can I say that I've had these experiences and I experienced no guilt and no shame? Because I love myself. I asked for forgiveness for what I've done for myself. I've asked him for forgiveness. I've asked God for forgiveness. I've received forgiveness. I've been pardoned. Grace has been extended. Why relive that hell over and over and over again?
Right.
So
no, I get that.
So for me, it's like, listen, this is in the past, and it's a part of his story. It's a part of my story that you can't go back and erase it like that. You can go back and heal it, though. And there are strategies, techniques, and tools for that. But so far, there doesn't seem to be anything on the surface so far in his life that's there. I'm on the lookout for the potential dangers of that coded information surfacing in the future. And if I'm alive and I'm able to witness that, if it ever does occur, I hope that I'll have the opportunity. But if not, I trust that the same way, trust me, I've had some hard-coded stuff from my past, from both of my dads, that I've since processed and healed from, and they had no part in it. So I trust God is never caught off guard. He loves us unconditionally. I believe as divine spiritual beings, as we all are, we have never been separated from him, and he's always there leading us and guiding us through life, through all of these experiences that he knew were going to be a part before we ever came here.
Yeah. No, and that's truly, like, I think about those things for sure. And I thank you for sharing that, because I know that I am a different person today than I was when my first son was born. And I'm going to be a different person when my youngest is 13. He's currently about to turn 3. And it's like, just like you know, I did the same kind of thing when my oldest was young. And I know that probably made damages, honestly, like you said, the hard coding into his psyche that I can't change. I can't fix. I can try to heal as I'm being healed personally, some of the things you're helping me with. But no, it's a good perspective. There is no condemnation, like it says in Romans, and that nothing can separate us from it. And God, and the thing of it is, one thing I've learned that I've thought about too is that how each of us has our own path to walk, right? You know, they may be our offspring, and we have some influence on that, and we have some responsibility there for a time, for sure. But at the end of the day, each one of us has our own path to walk, and it's a path with God in the lead. Not dad, not mom. They can't fix it. There's only one that can fix it. And at some point in time, whatever damage our parents might have done, they're not going to be held accountable. They're not condemned for it. It's still my journey with God. That's the one he knew I was going to have
the thing
from the beginning. You know?
Yeah, they're not condemned for it. And as I think about this from my old perspective of that is like, oh, well, we wait until Judgment Day, you'll see. But then the other thing, the truth that I believe today is that the essence and the true identity of my children are as divine spiritual beings. Their souls have never been impacted by what happens in this material world. It's only the ego and its ability to navigate through this world. It's who my kids think they are that is experiencing the suffering of those experiences. But once released from the physical form and its associated stored memories in the brain, it eventually dissolves back into spirit oneness with the Father, and the realization that experience was nothing more than, oh my gosh, I just woke up. That was the craziest dream.
It was a dream.
That life that we just had.
Yeah. Reading it.
He just, by the way, he just held up the book, The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz.
I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, it's some heavy stuff, but yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get into that right now. We'll have our coaching call next week. But so, Cliff, I definitely appreciate you being on the podcast. I just have one more question for you, because we have run certainly longer than anticipated, but I kind of knew that would happen with you. You're not one that's short on words for sure, but you say great things, and I appreciate you being open on here with me. So, we've kind of covered some of the things you did right, and so we won't cover that again. You've done some good things with your kids, especially I think the perspective of I'm raising young adults, I'm not raising kids. I really, really like that. So now that you have grown kids, your kids are all effectively grown. You're done raising them for the most part. I would, say they're now on their own. What advice would you have for other dads, like for myself, for others that are like in that younger stage and, behind where you're at, like maybe some short advice that you have for us?
The thing is get very clear about who you are in this world. And if you have anger, shame, fear, guilt, a lot of anxiety, worry, doubt, work on you. And if you can get yourself out of those lower levels of consciousness, outside of living in that way of being, that state of being, that emotional states of, or those emotional states of being, if you can get yourself out of there, your entire energy of your body and being in this world will call forth out of your children a completely different experience. But here's what I want you to know. I am a huge believer in this thing called the law of attraction, that everything is energy, everything vibrates at a frequency, and lower states of consciousness or lower emotional states such as fear, anger, anxiety, worry, doubt, shame, guilt, all of this stuff, these things put out an energetic frequency that attracts all of that out of your children, your spouse, your coworkers, your boss, your clients, if you're a business owner, everything. And God will not be mocked. You will reap, you will attract into your life the experiences and thoughts and environments that you are energetically projecting out into the world. So if you want to see your children elevate their positive aspects and attributes, first you must change your own elevation of your emotional states. When you are able to raise yourself up, to resurrect that mind of Christ within you, you will then call forth from everything around you, including your children, a whole new experience.
Thank you for that, Cliff. I believe that for sure, because I've experienced portions of that so far. Definitely the lower energy levels, and seeing that, like, basically the mood of dad turns into the mood of the house. You're right. And if it can work the other way too. So very cool. Awesome, Cliff. Well, I definitely appreciate you being on the podcast with me and for sharing these things with my audience and with me. I look forward to our next coaching session. Any final words you want to say before I close it up?
Final words. Just thank you for this opportunity. And after you end the recording on yours, do you mind if we continue to talk for just a few more minutes? And I want to ask you for permission to include this conversation as an episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Oh, you absolutely can. And
awesome.
When we stop the recording, we'll hang out for a little bit. So
awesome. Thank you for having me.
Recording stopped.
So we're still recording for the Cliff Ravenscraft Show at this point, and I'll just record an intro for it. But
okay.
Real quickly, before we go, because this conversation, there are things that I've shared here that I've not recorded in any content ever before. And I just wanted to wrap the episode by telling, this is Daniel Whitworth, and give a plug for your podcast and what you're most excited about in this world.
Okay, so my podcast is simply called Dad of Ages. You can find it anywhere. Still not 100% sure what I'm doing with it, but I want to reach other dads. I am a dad of 6 kids of various ages. That's kind of the idea of Dad of Ages. And you can also find me at dadofages.com. I think what I'm most excited about, that's a good question, Cliff, because I often don't think about that. What am I most excited about in life? I'm excited about the opportunities that I feel that God keeps throwing at me. We've recently had a big door shut, but it also just means that means there are more opportunities coming. And I can look back on the last just couple years and be like, wow, I had no idea, no conception that I would be where I'm at today. And so who knows? Who knows what awesome place I'm going to be just a year or two from now because of the changes that I'm making in me with a lot of help from you. So
that's awesome.
There you go.
And you are married to your wife, Nicole. You said you have 6 children. How long have you and Nicole been married?
We've been married a little over 18 years. And yeah, we have 6 kiddos, ages 13 down to 2, but they're all about to age up in the next month. They all have birthdays basically in April and May.
And you guys homeschool your children and your business owners.
We do.
Tell us about the business.
Yeah, so we homeschool our kids, and we do run an online business. My wife is a nurse, or more accurately, a nursing school tutor professionally for about 10 years now. And we run an online business tutoring nursing students all over the country. It's yournursingtutor.com. We've been doing that. We've been doing that for about 10 years, but we actually got involved with Shane Sams and Flip Lifestyle, and he helped coach us to make it a full-time income for us. And we also have another business that we're like kind of pseudo doing, a form of business coaching and whatnot. It's called For Business or Worse.com. And we don't do a lot with it, but we do offer online business coaching for people that are interested in that sort of thing. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you and I met as a result of my relationship with Shane Sands. He invited me to come do a workshop online about how to achieve any goal. Yeah. You and Nicole and a bunch of other people I've been privileged to meet and work with since then found me through that. And then I think you both went through the Free the Dream online course. Is that correct?
We did. Yeah, we both went. So after that workshop, we both signed up for the Free the Dream online. And we actually went through it like we got a hotel room for a night and had a babysitter where we just like went through that together without any distractions. And then and it was awesome.
By the way, that's at freethedreamcourse.com. Let me ask you, so you went and got a hotel. It's one of the things I even recommend. It's like, listen, if you can go away and find a space and just go through this for a weekend, it'd be awesome. So what was your experience, the two of you going through that? What I mean, there are 7 or 8 sessions, actually 8 sessions that you went through. What was the experience?
It was really, really good. We would do a session and then like take a little break and talk about it and everything. And really, I loved, one of the things you talked about in that, I don't know if you still do, but like how you quit sugar for a long time and just the way you describe how we can change our way of thinking about things, how we can like the awareness and what was the specific thing that I'm trying to think of. I just loved the way you showed how you can take control of your emotions. That's what it was. How your emotions don't have to control you, that you can choose intentionally. And there's practices you can put into place to help you with that. That was kind of just mind blowing to me. This idea that like, you really can have mind over matter. Like you actually can.
Yeah, you could definitely do it. Yeah. I love it. So you went through that. And then our other experience is that through that, I noticed that you guys had finished the course because I get notification every time somebody finishes one of the videos, and I could see you guys are chugging right through it. So I reached out to you guys.
We did.
And ended up having one-on-one coaching sessions with both you and Nicole. I used something called the Prosperous Coach Method for creating clients. So I offered you each 2 complimentary 90-minute one-on-one sessions, and you and I really resonated at a pretty deep level, and you've agreed to work with me for 1 full year. Just selfishly, what would you say to anybody who's thinking about hiring me as a coach? Is it a worthy investment?
It definitely is. I think it does depend on who you are and what you're looking for. I do believe. I mean, you have a specific kind of way you're going about things, and I think you and I resonate in a lot of ways. We have a lot of similar backgrounds. From my time in life and just what I'm trying to achieve, especially with my own noggin and my emotions and everything, and trying to be a better dad, I would say you're definitely a huge help for anyone going through like a major transition in their life, identity crisis, those kinds of things. And so, yeah, for anyone out there that if you're listening and you just need to figure out how to get to that next level in your own head, to get your own stuff out of the way so that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve without all those limiting beliefs and emotional roadblocks getting in the way. Cliff is the guy to help you do that for sure.
So awesome. Thank you so much. And then the last thing is that, so Daniel and I are meeting face to face in 2 weeks from the recording of this episode. He's coming to the Free the Dream workshop. He's got a VIP ticket. He is coming for the full 2 days of the workshop plus the bonus day of mastermind. Guys, if you are interested, come meet Daniel. If you're hearing this within the time frame, come meet Daniel at freethedreamworkshop.com. Get your ticket today. And if you don't make it to the first one here in April of 2023, you're listening to this weeks later, months later, years later, and yes, I'm even saying decades later, just head over to freethedreamworkshop.com or cliffravenscraft.com. All of the ways that we can work together are there. Daniel, thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest on your show. And more than anything, thank you for pulling out of me the incredible stories that I felt inspired and led to share in this content, because I believe my audience needs to hear this, and they would not have heard these things in this episode had it not been for you. So I am incredibly thankful to you.
Yeah, and thank you from my end as well for agreeing to do this, and just for the relationship we've developed so far and the help you've given me and stuff. So I look forward to much more of it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. freethedreamworkshop.com, freethedreamcourse.com, cliffravenscraft.com. Let's work together. We'll help you take everything you do to the next level.
Mindset Answer Man.